Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and in today's video we are going to be doing a builder gel overlay with a blooming gel marble design using some really pretty pinks which I think are perfect for Valentines. So on to the set, I'm working on my own nails, however I have done a lot of the cuticle and nail prep off camera. I will leave the dedicated prep video I have done up on the channel linked in the description box below. So here we're jumping straight to just dehydrating the nails using one of the Kiki London alcohol pads before we switch to applying the Kiki London primer. Now as you can see on my nails I do have a little bit of damage. This is from a little while ago and it's kind of still growing out, so I have kept my nails fairly short whilst I'm growing that out. So here we're just going to take that primer and apply a thin coat of this to all of the nails. This is quite a thin consistency product and it does air dry, so you don't need to pop it in to cure. Now my go-to base coat is always the Kiki London rubber bases, and I personally really love the coloured ones even if I'm not going to be seeing that colour in the set of nails. So for this particular set I have got RB06, but you could use a clear rubber base here instead. And before I start any gel application I always have these two brushes to hand. So we've got the angled nail art brush, which I love for cleaning up if you accidentally touch the skin or cuticles. I love it because it's got that angled edge to it. It just makes cleanup really easy, and it's quite stiff as well, so you don't get too much of the bristles fanning out, which I find really handy when we're cleaning up around that cuticle area. And then the stripe liner brush is my go-to for getting nice and close to those cuticles. So as you can see, when it comes to applying the rubber base coat, I take a very small amount. You only need a little bit, especially if you're working on short natural nails. And I'm just going to really work this in to that prepped nail plate. So kind of like scrubbing it in. I'm applying a fair amount of pressure. You can see the brush is fanning out just so that it gets really good adhesion to the natural nail plate. And I'm only going to be applying a thin coat. Now it can be quite difficult to get really close to the skin and cuticles, and that's why I have that strap liner brush to hand, because what I'll do is I'll just apply with the bottle brush and then I'll just take the strap liner brush and using that product that we've already applied to the nail, just push it up a little bit closer. You don't need to add any additional product because it's only your base layer, so it needs to be super thin anyway, so you can just nudge up what you've already got on the nail, and this way you can get really nice and close to the cuticles without having to worry about flooding the cuticles or ending up with a too thick cuticle line. So we've done that on all four of the nails, and RB06 is a really beautiful natural pink shade. I do sometimes wear this for the base and the colour, so if you are doing that then you would just come in and apply a second coat of this one, and once you come in and apply that second coat a lot more of the opacity comes through and you get a lot more of the pop of pink, and it's still a really nice pretty natural shade. It's one of my go-tos for when I'm working on my own nails, whether it be for a base or for the full color coverage. So this is what they look like once they have been cured, and then as I mentioned we are going to be doing a builder gel overlay, so I'm going to be using the Easy Build Up in neutral pink. I think this pairs up really nicely with the RB06 base. Sometimes what I will do is apply 2 coats of RB06 and then this over the top, because the RB06 underneath does alter the color of this ever so slightly, but I didn't do that for today's video because we're going to be doing a encapsulated marble design anyway, so you won't be seeing much of that base color that's underneath. So I'm applying my first coat of this very similar to how we applied our rubber base. I just want a thin layer over the nail that we can pop our marble on top of and then encapsulate our marble in. So when you are working on short natural nails, you want to keep your layers quite thin because you haven't got to build up too much thickness and structure to the nail, and you don't want to end up with a too thick or too bulky looking nail. So for this particular design, what I'm going to do is just pop a thin coat to begin with of the neutral pink down on the nail. Again, like before, like I mentioned, I'm applying it very similar to the base coat, however I'm not applying as much pressure. So as you can see, when I'm pressing my brush down onto the natural nail plate, I'm not applying too much pressure, so you will notice that that brush isn't fanning out as much, and that's because with my base coat layer I want to kind of scrub it into the natural nail, where with this layer I just want to float a thin even layer on to the entire nail. Then again, I'm taking my stripe liner brush, but this time I am making sure I've got a little bit of product on there because I want it to be a nice even layer. So what I'll do is just slide my strap liner brush into the bottle brush and just pick up a small amount of product. You can either do it this way or pop a little bit of product down onto your nail palette, but I'm using this to make sure that I am getting even coverage, especially around those side walls. It can be quite tricky when you are using a thicker consistency product to get right close to your side walls and for it to be nice and even and not look too bumpy. So by doing it with the strap liner brush, you can get that nice sharp straight line without worrying about touching the skin or cuticles. Again, of course, if you do get any product on the skin or cuticles, just make sure to wipe it off with a little bit of alcohol before curing. So I really do like neutral pink because when you've just done it in one thin layer, it's a really nice glassy soft pink. Once you build it up, it does have a little bit more pigmentation to it, but we're not going to really be using it for that feature in today's set. So in today's design, I wanted to include a pretty pink marble. So I've got coconut, mellow rose and French pink, and I'm going to start off by applying all three of these colors to my palette, and we're going to create that marble design down on our palette. So I'm applying the three colors just in lines on my palette, and you want to make sure you've got a generous amount. Of course, if you do need a little bit more, you can create more of the marble on your palette, but I'm just trying to make sure that I've got a generous amount down on the palette as we are going to be doing the marble design on all 5 of the nails. So as you can see here, French pink is kind of like a translucent pink, so it's very similar color to the neutral pink that we've used in the builder gel, and that's because I wanted this marble to have a bit of a glassy effect to it. I didn't want it to be too full on, if that makes sense. So once I've got those colors down on my palette, I'm going to swirl my dotting tool through them and create our marble design. And I really love how that French pink gives that really cool effect in it. I can't put my finger on the word that I mean, but it just creates a bit of more depth to it when you're adding it to the nail because it works like a clear wood, but where it's got the hint of pink, it just worked for today's design. Now, of course, before applying our marble, we're going to take our blooming gel and apply a thin coat of this to all of the nail. This just makes it a lot easier to transfer the marble from the palette to the nail, and also it just helps the marble come together and bloom. So to transfer the marble from the palette to my nail, I'm going to take my round nail art brush, just pull through that marble and then gently wriggle this from my brush into that blooming gel, and the blooming gel will help pull it off of the brush without you having to do too much work. So I like to use quite a light touch, and I did want this marble to look quite flowy. I didn't want there to be too many defined lines. So once I have got those colors down onto the nail, they are going to start blooming and marbling together a little bit more. You did see there, I'm going to take my stripe liner brush just to pull that marble a little bit closer to the side walls and to the cuticle area, and it did touch my skin slightly, so again I come in and cleaned up with the angled nail art brush. So I'm going to leave that now to just continue blooming a little bit while we work on the next nail. So I've applied a thin coat of the blooming gel, picking up my gel polish again, and then just very gently nudging that around. And as you can see, you do get different effects on each nails, but because we're using the same colors, they are going to look quite similar. So we haven't popped that first nail into cure yet because I did want it to bloom a little bit more, just because I wanted the marble to look a little bit softer. So I'm just coming back in and cleaning up, and then sometimes you'll notice in your marbles you get little bubbles. So what I will do is just very gently touch those bubbles using my stripe liner brush to pop them before we pop the design into cure. And on the pointer finger, I didn't quite like how there was a lot of pink in one area, so I took a tiny bit of white on my stripe liner brush and just marbled that in. Now I am going to pop these 2 nails into cure just so they don't start blooming or moving around anymore whilst I'm working on the next 2 nails. So once again, we're going to come in and apply our blooming gel. Now when it does come to applying your blooming gel, you want to apply quite a thin layer, especially when you're working on short nails, because again, each of your layers you need to make sure you're keeping them thin so that you don't end up with an overall bulky nail. But also because all the blooming gel, the only reason you're applying the blooming gel is to help your marble bloom and marble, so it's not building any strength or structure or adding anything like that to the nail, so you don't need to worry about applying a thick layer. You want to keep it nice and thin and nice and even. Then you're just going to simply scoop up your marble and wriggle that down onto the nail, and then don't be scared to come in and play around with that marble. If you're not 100% happy with how it looks, just take your stripe liner brush, swirl the colors together a little bit more, or move it around if you want to cover more sections of the nail. Obviously we're covering the entire nail here, but if you just wanted to maybe do a marble fade, so just have the marble down at the cuticle area, you could pop it down with your round nail art brush and then use your stripe liner brush just to fade it out as you go up towards the tip of the nail. One of the things I love about marbles is you can just play around with them and have so much fun. I have found it very helpful on this set, because of how short my nails are, to have that stripe liner brush to hand to nudge everything around until I'm happy with it and get it nice and close to the skin. It will run quite quickly because you've got the blooming gel down, so just make sure you're keeping an eye on things to come in and clean up with your alcohol and your angled nail art brush. Now, whilst that marble is still wet, you can play around with it as much as you want, or let it bloom as much as you want, but then once you are happy with it, you're going to pop it in to cure for 30 seconds. Now, after I'd cured the marble, I decided I wanted to add on some gold flakes. So I've taken the Kiki London Platinum Gold Flakes, and I only want to add a little hint of gold here and there. So I'm just taking my stripe liner brush, which is still sticky from using it to nudge my marble around, and I'm using that little bit of stickiness that it has to pick up the small amount of gold flakes that I want, and then I'm just tapping them on in random places on the marble, because I really do love having a little bit of sparkle in my marbles. If you don't want to do it with gold flakes, you can do it with a glitter gel polish as well, either combining that in with your marble or adding it separately over the top. But I really loved the wow factor that the flakes add. So I'm tapping them on to begin with using the stripe liner brush, and as you can see, it really just adds something super pretty to the marble design. Now, I did only very gently tap them on with the stripe liner brush, so just to make sure that they are stuck down onto the cured layer of your gel polish, I'm just pressing onto them using the silicone tool. Now, you want to avoid rubbing because that will spread them out and burnish them in. I'm just tapping very gently just to hold them in place, ready for encapsulating. Then to encapsulate, rather than encapsulating with the easy build up in crystal clear, I'm actually going to stick with that neutral pink and encapsulate with the neutral pink, just because it's going to soften the brightness of the white and the pink in the marble design, which is what I wanted to go for, and it's going to give those gold flakes a little bit more of an embedded look. Now, if you don't want this hidden embedded look, then come in and encapsulate with crystal clear instead. It kind of just depends on the design you're going for, and this was the look that I wanted to go for this design. So when it comes to encapsulating, I like to apply a thin coat of the easy build up gel to the entire nail. This is your slip layer, so I'll just apply a thin coat of this to the entire nail, and then come in with a slightly larger ball of gel and use this to build up the apex area and just some structure to the nail. Now, of course, because we're only working on short nails, we don't need to worry about building up too much thickness. So here I'll talk through my steps again. So here is the slip layer. So as you can see, I'm really working this layer over the nail, letting the brush fan out. I just want a nice thin neat layer of gel. And then just picking up a small ball of gel and working that from side to side, starting at the cuticle area and moving that down towards the tip of the nail. And by doing this, you're going to leave a lot of that product in the back third to build up the apex, and because you're moving the gel from side to side, a lot of that gel is staying in the center of the nail as well, building up the spine of the nail. And you can really see the difference here between the nails we've encapsulated in the neutral pink and the nails we hadn't, how bright that white still looks. So I really loved the effect that it gave off by encapsulating them in the neutral pink. Just adds that glassy pink finish and gives a lot of depth to the nail. So once again, we're doing our slip layer and then our builder layer and just working that product from side to side, and then it will self level a little bit as well, so you'll get a nice smooth even layer. If you do feel as though though your application has been a little bit uneven and it's not self-leveled as much as you'd like it to, you can hold your hand upside down for a few seconds before popping your nails into cure, and this is going to pull the gel into the center of the nails and give you that really nice spine and curve to the nail where you notice it when you get the line of light hitting it. So it's kind of a bit of a guide to go to. So I'm going to finish off by doing the same on the little finger, trying to use a real small amount of gel here because this is a tiny nail to work with, but you will still see as well I'm using that stripe liner brush to nudge that builder gel as close to the cuticle as possible, and also to get a nice neat line around the sidewalls as well. Once I was happy with the application, I did pop this in to cure for 60 seconds, and this is what the nails are looking like so far. I have done my thumbnail throughout the video off camera as well. Now I was really happy with the surface of the nail, so I didn't come in and file or buff the surface of the nail. If you feel as though your application is a little bit uneven or your structure is not 100%, you can come in and either file or buff the surface of the nail to fix this, especially if you've applied your products too bulky. I didn't feel as though I needed to do that, but I do like to have a crisp finish to the shape of the nails. So I'm taking my 180 grit file and just coming over very gently around the edges of the nails just to crisp up that shape. Now this is completely optional, and I know some people don't like doing this because they feel as though they're going to cause chipping, but you shouldn't do if you're doing it with a builder gel. As long as once you come in and top coat, you make sure you're capping your free edge with your top coat, that should help eliminate any chipping issues there anyway. But a lot of the time I will come in and file and buff my builder gel just to perfect the application, and I don't have any chipping issues. It's more of an issue there if you're just working with gel polish on the nail, because it's not strong enough to withstand filing. You will experience chipping if you decided to file the tips after your gel polish application, but it's not something you necessarily have to worry about, in my opinion, when you're working with builder gel. So once I had crisped up those free edges a little bit, keeping it quite natural because they are quite short and I keep my nails quite round when I'm wearing them as their natural length. But then once we had done that and I was happy with them being filed, I did clean up with an alcohol wipe just to remove any of that dust before we come in and top coat. And today I top coated with the no wipe top coat, and it just leaves an absolutely incredible shine. I really loved how these turned out. They are super cute. So once we had cured them, I do want to come in with the Sweet Peach Cuticle Oil. This scent is my absolute favorite out of the three, so I went for this one today. But I'm just going to apply a generous amount of this to all of the cuticles and give that a really good rub in, just to make sure to nourish and replenish them, especially as today I had done a acetone removal before applying these, so they was really in need of some TLC. I did then wash away the excess cuticle oil before taking my pictures, so this is what the finished set looked like. I thought they looked super cute and I loved how pink and girly they turned out, but do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, all of the products I've used will be linked in the description box below for you guys to check out, as well as any recommended videos. If you do have any questions, please do pop them below and I will be happy to help. If you did enjoy today's video, please do give it a thumbs up and hit that subscription button if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Lots of love. Bye bye.